Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is still playing out the short-term bearish divergence as we now have new liquidation levels to pay attention to in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. So in just a moment, as always, I'll be talking about my exact Bitcoin trading strategy alongside Ethereum still struggling at this important area on the price chart, at least in the short term, while the price of Solana is still technically playing out this warning signal, this bearish divergence. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market, while this weekly Bitcoin price chart is still flashing a major bearish divergence, technically still active, not yet invalidated. And on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, we're still getting quite close to a possible bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, but obviously we're not there just yet. And so overall, not a lot has changed on these larger timeframes over the last 1 day. So if you're new to the channel, check out my last 1 to 2 videos if you want to know more about these larger timeframes here, because basically nothing's happened over the last 1 day. But if we're taking a look at the daily timeframe, obviously we are continuing a little bit more of a short-term rejection here from this crucial level of resistance at approximately 117,000, give or take 117,000, even just above 117,000. We have a lot of resistance around there, as I've already been warning about for a while now on the channel, since before we rejected from around this area on the price chart. But if the price of Bitcoin eventually confirms a breakout with, for example, a daily candle close well above 117,000, and then actually holding above that level as new support, in that situation, the next target to watch out for, the next major point of resistance to watch out for, based on these previous highs, is sitting still at around $120,000 per Bitcoin, and above 120k we have this level closer towards basically the all-time high at roughly 124,000, which could also act as a bit of a resistance. But the immediate level of resistance, once again, at give or take 117,000. And as for short-term support, I would expect some support at around 114.5k and some major support closer towards around 113,000. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, technically speaking, we've not yet confirmed a trend reversal out of this bullish trend, but obviously, as I've already been talking about over the last few days, we are already playing out at least a short-term bearish divergence here on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, with clear higher highs confirmed in the price and lower highs in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. And so once again, as I've already been saying over the last couple of days here, we're most likely going to see a little bit of a cool off, showing some weakness in the short term for the price of Bitcoin. And obviously over the last couple of days, that has been playing out as predicted. And technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still currently active. It's not yet been invalidated, which means it's possible this could maybe play out for a little longer before possibly continuing the bullish trend later on. These are still possibilities we need to consider, because a bearish divergence like this is not always a bearish trend reversal signal, kind of like how a bullish divergence is not always a bullish trend reversal signal. Sometimes it just plays out for a few days here if we're talking about the 4-hour time frame, and then ultimately continuing the trend later on. That is a possibility. And so when we're talking about the trend on this 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, I would only start to flip more bearish again on the price of Bitcoin, basically not just these short-term moves, but calling for more of a bearish trend starting to play out only if we confirm a break below around 114.5k, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, forming some sort of lower high like this. In that situation, that would be bearish price structure and clearly starting to form a new bearish trend, ending this previous bullish trend. But at least as of recording this video, that has not happened. But overall, if we're talking about just the immediate short term, as in what we should be expecting over the next 1 day, just continue to expect a little bit of weakness in the immediate short term, as this bearish divergence is technically still active. So not necessarily a massive bearish move, but basically weakness lacking bullish momentum, which can just be a bit of sideways price action. That is also possible here, is essentially what I'm expecting here in the short term, basically a little bit of weakness here. And what's very interesting right now is if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, looking at the last 2 weeks worth of price action, we can currently see a new level of liquidity building in this price chart below the price of Bitcoin at approximately 114.3k. So just below the price, we do have some new liquidity building right around here. And in case you're new to all of this, usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where we have a lot of liquidity, especially if that liquidity is relatively close to the price. And so honestly, a likely scenario moving forward here is maybe a slight little move like this, just to take out that liquidity. But for as long as we don't confirm candle closes below around 114,500, and for as long as we can quickly get back above 114,500, even if we first wipe out that liquidity, it is possible that could just be a liquidity grab to the downside before ultimately we grab the massive liquidity still sitting above the price. Because if we're actually zooming out on this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can still see we have massive liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin at around 118 to 119,000, as we could see. So right around there, we still have a lot of liquidity as well, which means a likely scenario, once again, not guaranteed, but very likely, is maybe a slight little move like this to take out that downside liquidity, and then basically playing out a little bit more of a relief, maybe if we first invalidate this bearish divergence here in the coming days. And so honestly, that's the type of price action that I expect in the immediate short term for the price of Bitcoin as one of the most likely outcomes moving forward. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin in crypto funding rate, a lot of these funding rates are still sitting below neutral, not so much in the negative territory like I talked about in my last video, but still sitting below neutral, because the neutral rate, in case you're new to all of this, is 0.01%. So currently, once again, a lot of the funding rates for a lot of these crypto assets across a lot of different exchanges are currently sitting below neutral, which is actually a little bit more bullish than it is bearish. And so overall, the short-term trend is technically still bullish. The funding rates are technically still looking a little bit more bullish than it is bearish. And so overall, once again, I'm still in my Bitcoin long positions. I'm just simply pointing out that new liquidity building below the price, and of course this bearish divergence, which could first result in a slight little dip like this before maybe we continue the bullish trend later on. But once again, overall, I am still in my Bitcoin long positions. I've really not changed my trading strategy over the last one day. As I've already been saying over the last few days, essentially this trading strategy protects downside risk while also leaving the upside potential still open. And so effectively what I've been doing with these long positions here across these exchanges, specifically this Bitcoin long position anyway over on my BTNX account, has been taking some profits along the way at some certain points of resistance along the way where the price could possibly reject from. And also with both of these trades on both of these exchanges, I also have my stop loss sitting in some slight profits, so that even in the worst case scenario, if the price just crashes and actually ends the bullish trend, essentially that would automatically close the trade at these levels where the stop losses are sitting at in some slight profits. And so once again, not financial advice, but if you've been following my trading strategies, you should be making some profits here, and of course protecting any downside risk in case that worst case scenario happens, but also still leaving some upside potential actually open, considering at least for now we've not yet confirmed the end of this bullish trend, which means it is likely we could ultimately, maybe in a few days from now or maybe in a week from now, at some stage continue the bullish trend. And obviously this trading strategy has been working out over the last 1 week or so, as I've been sharing very transparently here on the channel. You can see the proof for yourself. The numbers do not lie. Easily making some profits in the crypto market with this very simple trading strategy that protects downside risk and it leaves upside potential open. And of course, if you want to take trades just like this for yourself, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on my BTNX account. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim massive bonuses up to 120,000 USDT in trading bonuses here from a huge prize pool. And so for example, there's also deposit bonuses as well. So if you deposit just 100 USDT, you get a $20 bonus, or if you deposit 1,000 USDT, you get a $200 bonus onto your BTNX account. Basically free money from the exchange just by depositing crypto, but only if you use that link. And once again, there's also up to a 120,000 USDT prize pool here simply just by trading crypto. So especially if you're one of these larger traders here, or even if you have smaller amounts to deposit, there's still basically free money that you can claim on BTNX, but only if you use that link below this video. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out. First link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. As you can see right here, my other Bitcoin long position, not changed over the last 1 day, still open on my 2bit account. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim massive bonuses. For example, up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses, and also 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stable coins. So once again, massive amounts of free money here from the exchange just simply by trading crypto. And also without even making any trades, any deposits, or without even doing any KYC at all, you can get a 30 USDT sign up bonus just simply by making an account. Take 60 seconds to do this using that link below this video to 2bit, and you also get a 1 month free VIP 3 upgrade. So basically massive cheaper trading fees for an entire month and free money from the exchange simply just by making an account using that link. But if you don't use that link, unfortunately, you cannot claim any of these major bonuses here that are only available using that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the 3-day time frame, and as I've already been saying over the last few days, we're still experiencing just a slight little relief, honestly kind of looking very neutral in the immediate short term, but still within the much larger pullback. And so it's kind of similar to what we saw back here, for example, or a little bit like what we saw back here, for example, kind of just bouncing around relatively sideways in the immediate short term, but once again, not yet confirming a massive bullish trend reversal. And so what this actually means in simple terms is in the short term, so over the next few days, maybe over the next 1 week, that sort of time frame, expect a lot of altcoins to either perform very similar to what Bitcoin is doing, or maybe even slightly underperform to what Bitcoin is doing just in the short term, once again, for the coming days, possibly the next week, that sort of time frame, while we're kind of just chopping around sideways a little bit in the Bitcoin dominance. But then maybe in a week or two from now, if we ultimately continue the larger bearish movement here, of course, that would mean a lot of altcoins would be outperforming Bitcoin again if we ultimately continue that larger bearish move later on. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, the price of ETH is still simply chopping around sideways in the same sideways price range as I've been predicting for probably about a month now on the channel. I've been talking about this sideways price range, telling you that we're most likely just going to bounce around in this range for a while. And obviously, since I've been saying that around a month ago, this is exactly what has been playing out as I've been predicting. And in case you're new to the channel, this area of support for the sideways price range is sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, and this area of resistance for the range is sitting in between around 4.8k to 4.9k. And of course, in between this sideways price range, we also have other levels of support and resistance to watch out for. And more recently, we have just broken below this point of support, which was also previous resistance and is now once again acting as resistance, and that's sitting in between around 4470 to 4.5k. So at roughly 4.5k and just under 4.5k, we currently have a decent amount of resistance for the price of ETH right there, at least in the short term. But the good news is that the price is also developing a little bit of support around this level in the price chart here, sitting at around 4430 to 4440, give or take. So expect a little bit of short-term support to continue around here. But if we ultimately continue a further rejection, the next major point of support I'll be watching is at around 4370 to 4380. And below that, we have a very significant area of support down here in between around 4250 to 4280. And if the price of ETH can ultimately break out back above 4.5k with candle closes above that level and actually holding this as new support, in that situation, the next immediate point of resistance to watch out for based on this high right here, this previous high, is sitting at around 4550, and above that we have significant resistance at just above 4.6k, so around 4.6k to 4620. But at least as of recording this video, we're still currently in the test phase, simply testing this resistance, not yet confirming a breakout, not yet really confirming a strong rejection. So we're still just having to wait and see what happens at this level on the price chart. But remember, no matter what happens at this level in the coming days, whether we see a short-term breakout or another rejection, either way, we're still within this larger sideways price range that I've been talking about every day for about a month now on the channel. So honestly, continue to expect a larger sideways consolidation for the price of ETH in this massive range right here as a very likely scenario. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is still within the longer term bullish trends, the larger bullish price structure, forming higher lows and higher highs. But of course, just recently in the short term, we are experiencing a slight little cool off here, as we can see. And obviously this is due to a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons is, of course, that Bitcoin, for example, is experiencing a slight little cool off, which really influences a lot of the altcoin market, Solana included. And of course, another reason as to why we're experiencing a slight little cool off, showing a small amount of weakness and lacking some bullish momentum, at least in the immediate short term for Solana, is due to the fact that here in the 12-hour Solana price chart, we technically are still playing out a bearish divergence with higher highs still confirmed confirmed in the price, lower highs still confirmed in the RSI. And so as I've already been talking about over the last couple of days here on the channel, I've been saying expect a lack in bullish momentum, a little bit of weakness for the price of Solana as a very likely scenario in the coming days, maybe even for around a week. That sort of time frame is what I expect. Essentially either some sideways price action or maybe some slight bearish price action, just showing a small amount of weakness in the short term, basically just cooling off after all of that previous bullish price action, but not necessarily ending the larger bullish trend. It is possible to experience these little cool offs or slight little pullbacks during the trend, kind of like what we saw just here, or just here, for example. And of course, I would still expect a lot of support at around $230, but if we break below 230, in that situation, expect more support at around 215 to 216. And as for resistance, the next significant area that I'll be watching is in between around 260 to 265 based on these previous highs. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, right now XRP is technically still playing out the larger bearish divergence that I warned about months ago now on the channel, probably back since around July. You can even check my videos all the way back then at around these highs at around $3.40, $3.50. I warned about this larger bearish divergence all the way back then when everyone was going to tell me that I was going to be wrong about this bearish divergence right here. But obviously over the last couple of months, it has been playing out as I've been predicting since months ago now on the channel. So technically still currently active on the weekly time frame. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, the price is in somewhat of a sideways price range, as we can see, bouncing between support and resistance, not really looking overly bullish or overly bearish, at least when we're talking about the trend on the daily time frame. And so right now we have a lot of support in this area here, sitting in between around $2.70 to $2.80, and a lot of resistance in this area sitting in between around $3.10 to $3.15. And we also have more resistance up here in between around $3.30 to $3.35. And I would also expect a small amount of support here at give or take $2.95 based on previous support in the price of XRP. And honestly, XRP is likely going to play out very similar price action to what I've been saying throughout the video. So maybe a little bit more of a cool off in the immediate short term for a period of hours or days, but then it's possible we could see a little bit more of a bullish relief later on, maybe in a few days or maybe in a week from now, that sort of time frame, especially if Bitcoin ultimately plays out that bullish relief that I do expect at some stage, maybe in a few days from now. So that's overall what I expect for XRP, but obviously still pay attention to these major points of resistance and support where the price can possibly bounce from or reject from. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for Chainlink. Technically, we've not yet fully confirmed the reversal out of this larger bullish trend, but obviously we are experiencing a larger cool off within that bullish trend. And as I've explained many times recently here on the channel, it's very important for the price of Chainlink to hold above this low right here, where we have crucial support for the price sitting at just above $22. So really in between around $22 towards around $22.30, we have a lot of support around there. And once again, it's very important for the price to hold above that area, because if the price of Chainlink actually confirms, for example, a daily candle close below $22, and especially if we turn that into new resistance to fail to get back above that area, in that situation, that would start to form some significant bearish price structure, actually cementing a lower high in place in the price of Chainlink, and of course, starting to form potentially a larger bearish trend, not just a short-term pullback within a bullish trend, but actually reversing the larger trend if we start to lose this level on the price chart at roughly $22. So once again, that is the key level to actually hold. And as for resistance, still expect a lot of resistance at close to $25 and really in between around $25 to $25.20 as an area of resistance to watch out for. And we also have a lot of resistance at just under $27, around $26.70 to $27, acting as strong resistance as well. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, then check out the link below this video to these exchanges that I'm trading on right now. And if you use those links, once again, you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses that are only available using those links. And in case you actually want to know how to take these trades for yourself to make a lot of quick and easy profits in the crypto market, like what I'm doing right now with my own money, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.